and make it official? Okay,
Go ahead, Ruth.
great. Well, this is official, everybody. Hi, my name is Ruth Johnston, and I'm the Illinois PTA Cultural Arts Program Director. I'm just happy to have all of you here to get a little sneak peek. Just so you know, we do not have all of the resources in a format that you'll be able to use yet. We're working on that. But I wanted to give you a little idea of what's to come so you can start planning. And my partner in crime, Peg Stalin, part of the Cultural Arts Committee, is going to be here with Jim Sklina, who's our Leadership Development Program Director, and actually our treasurer, but fill in for leadership. And they'll be manning the chat and admitting people so that we can just keep this thing going. So happy to have all of you tonight. And at the end, I hope to get to know a little more about you and what brings you to cultural arts and reflections, and what your passions are and what works for you. So I'm going to get started and share my screen and give you a little presentation, and then we may be able to go to the website and look at where you can find the leadership resources, depending on. Here we go. Here we go. Okay, this is our sneak preview. This is the logo for the 2022-23 year. Not the one that is on my Zoom background. They messed up on the year for that. So show your voice, and you'll be seeing this a lot this year. And of course, the mission of the Reflections program encourages children to reflect on a common theme and create original artwork, literature, visual arts, performing arts. And we know they do. They do an amazing job and put themselves out there. I think it's pretty brave to be an artist and, make yourself known. So first thing I'm going to ask you all to do, this is that time of year when you need to register your PTA for Illinois. But I'm going to also ask you, if you're going to be participating or thinking about participating in Reflections, that you register with pta.org/reflections. Just keep in mind that those are going to be more generic, that information, and their deadlines won't necessarily reflect the deadlines of Illinois PTA. I think the only two deadlines we have in common would be the December 1st theme search, their deadline when I have to get things to them, and then our March 1st deadline when I have to submit the entries to National PTA. Other than that, you're going to see deadlines that are more Illinois specific. And hopefully in your regions, you're going to be working with your region directors to set their deadlines so that you can backtrack to whatever your council and your local unit need to set to meet, the needs of your students. You can register your Reflections Chair and Member Hub. I'd really appreciate it. The more we get to know who's out there and how we can communicate them, it would really help. And make sure as you're registering that you check to see that your PTA is in good standing with Illinois PTA. Only our units that are in good standing are able to participate in the Reflections program. So we want to help you get there. Our region directors are only, an email or a text away to assist you in whatever you need to get up to date and be in good standing. And then, of course, you're going to start planning. Hopefully, as you're putting together your budgets, you've made sure that Reflections is a line item in your budget, or cultural arts, so that you have some money to spend and plan for your activities. Your council, your district or region, your deadlines, you get to know those, reach out to those different levels, whether you're part of a council You're all part of a region, and determine, because you're going to have to backtrack. If they have a deadline, say November 15th, then you're going to have to backtrack 2 or 3 weeks before that to get your deadline, so that you have time to get your entries to the judges and then submit your entries to the next level with all the paperwork. So just keep that in mind. And then when you're planning, what art categories are you willing to accept? What do you think you can handle this year? Are you ready to accept all 6 art categories, which we will talk about in a little bit? Or do you need to pare it back a little and maybe only want to do visual arts and literature and photography and just keep it a little simpler this time? I mean, it really depends on what type of volunteers you have helping to correct. And then resources. Starting this summer, there will be a plethora, one of my favorite words, of resources on the Illinois PTA website. It is password protected. So we're going to go into a little bit about that a little bit later. But you're going to have all the guidelines for the arts categories, our deadlines, all the promotional material, and many other things to get you started. And then as you're going through the resources, you need to reach out for volunteers, to help you to collect and get the word out about the Reflections program and coordinate judging. And I suggest, pairing up parents with staff members so the staff don't feel overwhelmed if they're handling something. If they know they have a volunteer who's going to be maybe the runner to get everything and collect things and work with them, so they can devote to the classroom. And also, look out in your community for your arts professionals, high school and college, instructors, to judge your entries. It could be the dance teacher at the school down the street, who you could bring in to help you look at the dance entries. I mean, there are many other resources out, and you would best know your own community. Okay, so now you decide, are you going to host an in-person or a virtual program or a little bit of both? This past year, I think a number of our units had to do a little of each because some of our regions are diverse and they couldn't handle all of the virtual, and they took physical entries and submitted those in January. Reach out to your school and your PTA leaders to find out the best way to communicate. Get your signs up. Let everybody know you're participating, that the Reflections program is going to be up and running. And then develop a campaign to reach out and constantly, let people know the deadlines and where they can find the guidelines and resources for the kids. The information collection, I prefer the fillable student entry form only because it's so easy to be able to copy and paste that information and get it into the necessary forms and paperwork. But we will work with you wherever you are on that. If you have to print out forms and pass them out to your families and scan those and get them to us, that's fine too. Consider digital storage platforms, online storage, if people are going to be uploading their entries to you. And consider, for your judges, it worked really well at the state level to have all the virtual entries ready for the judges. Then I could pull judges from all over the state. As a matter of fact, some aren't even in this state who were judging entries. And then they didn't have to be physically in one place all at one time. They could do it at midnight or whatever was convenient for them, and then get their scores back to us. So it was really helpful. I think I got better participation because of that. And then, think outside of the box. What's going to work for your families, for your community, for your school, virtual, in person, a little bit of both. And if you have any questions on that, we'll work with you. So what is coming this summer? Okay. Some leadership resources for you. I am reformatting the entry form, and I would hope and encourage all of you to use that entry form when it's completed. It's just going to be a little more spacious. We know some of those lines are a little cramped if you're handwriting some of the information, such as emails and all of the details that you need to include with your entries. So we're gonna fix that for you and make it a little more user friendly for our Illinois participants. And then once again, the entry form will be available if your PTA is in good standing with Illinois PTA, and reach out to your region director to make sure that you are. The local leaders guide will be available. It'll be in Spanish and English, and that will have supplemental tools. There's a whole judge review packet for you so that you can send out with information. You can use it when you're training your reflections judges, and it talks about there's a rubric, what emphasis you should put on. Expression of theme is 40% of the judging. It's very important to National PTA that expression of theme be the most important when you're judging. These kids, proficiency is not as important as expression of theme. So, and then there's also a celebration event planning guide in the leaders guide as well. All the 6 arts categories will be listed in their guidelines. Now, these are national level guidelines in the categories for the most part. The problem with setting our own state guidelines, although we can review it and consider it, is that if it doesn't meet the national guidelines, it could be entered to the state, but it could not be considered for national advancement to national. So that's why I put out those guidelines, so that if to meet those guidelines, your student's entry would be eligible to be considered for the national PTA level. They also have a PowerPoint slide deck, which is a great new feature that you can use, and you can tailor to your own unit. You could tailor it to councils, could use it for training units, or regions could use it in their training to just talk about, why reinvent it, the PowerPoint, like I did. So there's some new tools that are available in addition to the reflections crossword puzzle, which is interesting to me. Promotional materials will be available, everything you ever needed to make your signs, your posters. There are videos, all of the logos needed, everything for social media, every type. And then our category and division images when you want to highlight the different arts categories. Now then, the theme search packet will be available. I know a few PTAs participate in it, but the kids think it's a lot of fun because they get to throw out their ideas, even if they're not so-called artists, even if they're not going to be submitting art pieces to reflections, they can still fill in the form and submit that to the state. That would be to reflections@illinoispta.org. and be considered. And 5 of those submitted entries are going to go on to the national level. And, you never know when one of Illinois will be chosen as, the theme for 2 years from now. And then there's also going to be a reflections leader checklist. And I feel that this is important. I knew national left it out, but I have a background, and I'm a grant administrator for another nonprofit organization, performing arts grants, and having a checklist when they're submitting an application, it's really helpful, because then you can check off and make sure that you have everything that you need before it goes to the, to the next level, and you'll be, in compliance, and it won't be rejected. So it's just something that you can use, it's not something you have to turn in with the entries. It's just something that says, yep, check, we got all this information at the top, check. We got all the parent and student information, check, it's just for your own. Okay, and here's our cultural arts timeline for Illinois. Why do I have the dues deadline on here? I'm maybe some of you are not aware that the number of entries that are available to be submitted per arts category and special artist category are determined by the membership in your PTA region. So the more members that we have, the greater number of entries your region can submit. So for example, I'm going to throw out Northwest Cook region. You are allowed 13 entries per arts category, and as well as 13 for special artists because of their current membership. DuPage East is at 12 per arts category. So really it depends on the membership. And that's why I recommend, if you have any dues that haven't been submitted, get it in by June 30th, because we're going to use that number to determine the number of arts categories. I mean, the number of entries per category. In July, Ashton and I are going to be working on getting all the Reflections program materials available and make them available at illinoispta.org, so that you can get started in the summer to start planning and setting your dates and setting your trainings and getting your resources. As I said before, registered units in good standing will, receive access. You'll be getting your password and be able to access those resources. In August, we're going to be our kickoff with a Reflections welcome letter and start the art resources, and hopefully more workshops that Peg and I were talking about, just having a little chat with some of you to find out, what your successes are, what works for you, how we can better serve you. We're always a work in progress, and we want to make sure that we are meeting the needs, of our units who are participating in Reflections. So, these are just guidelines. I am here to listen and to answer questions. If you ever have them, if you're having a problem or an issue, we will work with you to help you get to where you need to be. September, October, theme search is coming up. I would love for some of you to just consider, throw it out to the kids. They may have some great ideas of what our next Reflections theme could be, or in 2 years. And we'll keep sending you resources through Weekend Update and other means. The deadlines for theme search will be the end of November 1st. And then we move on and start focusing pretty intensely on getting everybody ready with the Reflections entries that come to the region level in January. I'm going to need not only the virtual entries, if possible, but also the physical entries. It was a little tough this year trying to round them all up when they weren't collected originally. So we're going to try to set up a better process for getting those in. And then, as many of you know, the Reflections entries advanced to national. The deadline is March 1st, and everybody's anxiously awaiting to see.
Ruth,
So, okay.
I'm sorry, Ruth, we didn't catch the last two sentences. You cut out on us.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes.
No, I was just talking about the deadline, March 1st. Many people know that deadline because that's when our entries are advanced to national PTA. And as soon as we get those submitted, then we try to get that information out to all of our units through the weekend update announcements. And also we announce the honorable mentions at that time. So these are the 5 grade divisions. Okay. Is everyone familiar with all of the grade divisions? Are you all working on reflections in your PTAs? Well, I mean, it would really depend on what grades you have at your school. I mean, some of our PTAs choose to just work with, one grade level. We have some PTAs where they decided they just are going to submit entries from the middle school because they have a volunteer who is willing to work with those kids. Others are opening it up pre-K, through 8th. Some of our schools are pre-K through 8th. So it really depends on what your needs are at your particular school and your council. Special artists, students who identify as having a disability and may receive services under IDEA or ADA, section 504 may enter. There's a lot more information, and we're going to talk about that later. And we welcome them to participate as well. And there are going to be a few ways that they can be assisted in submitting, but they would not, if they're submitting as a special artist, they would not be submitting at a grade level. But that would be their choice, whether to submit it at their grade level or as a special artist, where they would be judged on the basis of the work and not on the grade level. So these are our 6 arts categories. Dance choreography, and we'll go into that in depth. It's choreographing the dance. You need not be the dancer. Film production, literature, music composition, photography, and visual arts. Dance choreography is the original work of one student. Now you may have a student who choreographs a dance and has multiple students participating in it, and that's fine. But it would only be that one student who would be submitting the entry, the one who choreographed the dance. The others would be given credit, and we'd ask you to cite their names on the entry form. But it would be submitted by the one student who choreographed the dance. And they need not even be one of the dancers. There are many different dance styles that are available. On the next slide, I'll show you, a few of our students from this year. It's not limited to typical dancing. There's ice skating and dancing, gymnastics, and many other ways that they can express themselves through movement. Using background songs, props, and locations can help to enhance the way you're expressing the theme, and are certainly welcomed. And background music and the performers who are dancing need to be cited on the entry form. And I'm going to suggest that you test the camera angle, the sound, the lighting before you begin, and do a test recording and practice, because there's nothing more disappointing than a student who's dancing and does a jump, and you miss, their head, and you miss their arms, or they do a turn and they're off camera. So try to, pull back your camera, your recording device, and test and see where would be best placed. So when they're performing, that we don't miss any bit of their dance choreography. And then talking and introducing yourself. I know that's so much a part of our kids' lives. If they introduce themselves, they put their name out there. That's a part of performing. But the entries really shouldn't include any speaking or introductions or any other information, not their artist statement. Just a few seconds pause and then the music and dance, and then a few seconds pause at the end. And that's what our judges are looking for. They're looking for the movement. And so here are some examples of kids who participated this year. And you can see there are many different types of dance styles, from jazz and ballet to even using, participating with the silks and cultural dance and tap and skating. So you can see our kids are putting themselves out there, and they're really expressing in many different ways. And film production. Film production is the process of making the film. Some see it as a process of acting in the film, but it's really the process of making the film. If you happen to be an actor in the film, performing in the film, that's great. But it needs to be one student, the original work of one student, doing the screenwriting, directing, editing, or creating their own, work, whether it's animation, they must be original student footage. Okay, and no PowerPoint presentations. It may include public places, well-known products, but they can't be the primary influence expression of that. It's just something that's incidental to the work, so that it's not copyright infringement. Background music and performers need to be noted on the entry form. And once again, test your camera angle, sound, lighting before you begin. Just record it. See if you're really capturing what you intended, or edit. The one great thing about film is you can edit it out and start over. And then these are some of the great entries that we got this year in film production. And there will, of course, be on display at Spotlight on Sunday. And these are kids from all over who participated. In literature, entries are a single work, not a collection of poems or short stories. Just a single work, can be handwritten or typed. Many different styles. Pictures are certainly welcome if they're hand drawn. Using pictures that you've pulled from a online or another source would be possibly copyright infringement, and we're saying I wouldn't suggest them. You should, if they're going to animate it, it should be animated by the student. But just as long as you know that the judging will only be the literary content. We all love. Did you have something to say, Shelley? Oh, okay. I didn't know if you had a question. I love looking at the hand drawings. I mean, they're just great, and the kids are wonderful and creative, but it's only the literary content, so the words, that would be judged. And 8.5 by 11 paper only, no big portfolios or little diaries or any of that would be accepted. And if they are, pre-K through first grade and they're dictating it, it needs to be written or typed exactly as spoken by the student. And then the person who is recording it should state that they've done so. And then here's some examples. We have on the top, we have an entry that advanced to national. And of course, it's handwritten, and then you can see that she also illustrated it, but then an adult typed it up so it'd be easier to read, but those were all included in the submission. So also that they could see the original work, and then it typed up for ease of reading. We have another student who is unable to communicate in what we could consider the usual way. They use their POD, the Pragmatic Organization Display, to express themselves. And that is one of our special artist entries. And then at the bottom right, that is a little booklet that was folded in half, and you can see that it's in cartoon form, and that's also acceptable. But as I stated before, it would only be the literary work that would be judged, and not the cartoons. It doesn't mean we can't enjoy it. I think it's an adorable book. Music composition is just creating new music, not, American Idol. It's creating your own new music and submitting and expressing yourself through sound. And there are many different ways that you can use sound, whether it's drumming or electronic sounds. And it needs to be the original work of one student, but you can certainly have other people performing your composition. And once again, audio only. If you are able to convert it to audio before submitting, that would be great. If you're having trouble with that. Can everybody hear me?
Now we can.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. I just said my connection was unstable. Audio only. Just don't talk. Don't introduce yourself. Don't give us your statement. Just a pause. Perform your composition. A pause, and then end. I know it's hard because the kids want to put themselves out there. It really is. But that's what they'll be looking at when these works are judged. They'll be looking at just the sounds, just the music composition. Many different music styles that can be chosen, and any combination of instruments, even something you created yourself. And you can also use software to produce a recording. Now, when you get into middle and high school, they do require musical notation or a reflective statement explaining musically, how the music was created. And that would be in addition to the artist statement. Photography, consider, objects, lighting, location.
You're cutting out, Ruth. Your connection is not good, Ruth.
Can you, I'm right by my router. I don't know why I'm having trouble. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I apologize. I don't understand why my connection is not good. Accepted forms are a single photo, photo montage, multiple negative sandwich or photogram, original black and white are certainly accepted. But what's not accepted would be entries with added graphics over the image, including lettering. Collages or collections of photos would not be considered a photography entry. Or original film, which means if you're actually using film in your camera and you're just giving us the negative that hasn't been developed, that would not be accepted either. Copyrighted material, including, cartoon, not acceptable. There are copyright issues with all of this. So just be mindful when you're getting the word out to the kids, not to use anything, superheroes and those other characters. And was presented this year, and our kids do gorgeous work. They really do. And then these are some that aren't accepted to advance to the national level because they did not meet the requirements. Putting lettering on a photograph is not accepted. multiple pictures and also the sizing of this one photograph in the upper left. Putting a graphic over a photograph is not acceptable. As a matter of fact, that's a very famous Campbell soup can, and probably not, most definitely copyright infringement. Or a multiple series, it's adorable, multiple series of photographs is not considered a photography entry. It would be considered actually visual arts. And then pretty much whatever you can put out there, architecture, carpentry, 2D, 3D, ceramics, collages, jewelry. I mean, the sky's the limit when it comes to visual arts and the kids and things. And it doesn't have to be, you know, paint on canvas, or just no frame artwork, and anything that is three-dimensional. Real, just, you know, you can't hear me?
Yeah, we're losing you again.
I don't know what to tell you. I'm right here. My router.
Okay, I just don't want them to miss any of your important information.
No, I understand. I just, I'm not aware when you can't hear me. I can hear myself fine. All right. And so these are some examples of our great visual arts. You can see we have some that are diorama, and, you know, they're three-dimensional works, as well as oils and acrylics and watercolors, and you name it. Our kids, and collages, our kids are putting themselves out there, and it's just amazing what they're doing. And then we have our special artist submission requirements. Entries are accepted in all 6 arts categories with some modified rules and guidelines. Use of adaptive technology is allowed, but the submission must be created by the special artist. A parent or teacher can assist with typing or holding a camera. And then the things that are not allowed would be someone actually choreographing a dance for the student, or composing the music, or drawing or painting. So they're going to be, they're more, is more information in the guidelines when we get that out to you. But it's just a great way for our special artists to still participate in the reflections. And here are some of our special artists who submitted entries this year: in film, in literature, in visual arts. And this is what drives this cultural arts director crazy. And this, yeah, this is some days, this is how I look. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so entry issues, good standing requirements. If you don't fill in your dues paid date, your insurance paid date, and your bylaws approval date on your form, I have to, you know, go back and find out whether these things have been done to make sure this entry is acceptable. So get it done before, actually, it should be done before you even create that form and send it out to your students. Student information should not be included on dance and film videos. They should not be speaking their information on those videos. Music entry should be audio only and not include the student information. Student information on the back of literature, please, or a separate page. And photography and visual arts, not on the front of the works. Don't write or put numbers on original literature entries. Please make a copy or use a Post-it note, because I get these entries to get ready for our spotlight, and they have numbers on for the judging. You know, there'll be a number at the top, and I can't and then their copies are made, or it's in pen and I can't get rid of it, and it has to then be made, put on display with the numbers. So use your Post-it notes or make a copy first and then number those copies. 3D visual arts entries must be fully assembled. We're not putting them together because then we become the artist. Student information, I just need it as legible as possible. If you can't read it, don't send it on, just double check on it. And type signatures are certainly accepted if they aren't able to sign and submit to you. The title of the project, the student must name the project. If there's no name, don't give them a name for the student. Ask them what the title of their work is. If they have no title, untitled is certainly acceptable. We have some great artists, throughout the years who have chosen not to title their works. So there certainly doesn't detract from the piece, but go back if they don't have a title on there, just go back and ask the student what their title is for their work. Don't make one up. And then correct entry forms, of course, legible, 8-digit PTID number, not the EIN. I was surprised how they didn't know that their ID number was a national PTA ID number, and they gave us their nonprofit EIN. Good, once again, good standing requirements, student information, and details. And the student statement, I know some kids say very little, but others just love to talk about, how they created their work in their artist statement. But the cutoff is 100 words. National has a limit and they can't accept 1 word more. And so we need to make sure that we're not going to disqualify anyone because I can't get their entire statement into a national application. And then this is the entry form. For those of you who are not familiar, this is the entry form you'll be filling out. You're going to want to fill out the whole top portion before distribution, the one in this grade. And then either send it out, make it available online, or if you pass out physical copies, that all that information should be on there before it goes out, so that when they're returned and come back with the entries, then we know that everything's in order. Then the student information, we need to have that completely filled out with their signatures. Type signatures are accepted now. And then the category and division and the details. And some of the things that we're changing is more information so that you can include all of those details we've talked about for the dance, film, literature, all those requirements. The details line is a little small.
Ruth,
yeah,
Jim put something in the chat about some PTAs might not know what their national ID number is.
We can help. National ID numbers, there is a lookup on national PTA, but also your region director will have that information. It should be isn't it in Member Hub as well? And our state office will have that information.
And for those of you who do not have a region director, Connie McElgay, the Vice President of Field Operations, is your contact person.
It will be the person who you will receive, your PTA will receive a letter, a welcome letter from our president, Carolyn McCarty, and it will give you that information and direct you to whoever is serving as your region director for the 2022-23 year. And then one of the features of the Local Leaders Guide are going to be steps to program success, but we're going to move on because that's going to be available to you in the Leaders Guide in July. And then consider reflections, theme, participation. Your idea could inspire the nation. And the kids love to just put their ideas out there and and share them with us. And we're happy to accept those. And that information will be coming out later in the summer. So we have some time for some questions. I'm sorry that my connection has been a little wonky tonight.
Ruth, do you care if they just unmute since we have only?
No, that would be great. This is a time when we could just have a little conversation.
So please feel free to unmute and ask us your questions.
Can I ask a question?
Sure, Shelley, go ahead.
Okay. So Karen, she's also on the Zoom with me. Her and I both are at Westgate Elementary in Arlington Heights. And even though Westgate has had the reflection program for a while, it just hasn't been promoted. And nobody's really been doing, it's just kind of been sitting there. Like it's advertised, but nobody at the school has submitted any entries because there's been nobody really like the chair of reflections to promote it. So this year, Westgate got 5 students to submit entries. And next year, our goal is to get, 30. I mean, we want to get a lot of people to submit. Okay. So just a couple questions that I have just from listening to your presentation, which is great, Ruth. Thank you so much. All this information is wonderful. So like when you're saying that reflections should have a budget, which reflections at our school has always had a very small budget, but again, nobody's used it because nobody's really understood the program. In your opinion, how much should we be, do you know how much money we should be asking for a budget, and what could we use this money for to help with the program? Because you were also talking about, like, these are some other questions that I'll just piggyback in here. You were also talking in the presentation about just other activities that we could have regarding the program at the school. So, and I'm like, what are there any examples of activities we could have with this? And if so, what are they? And what would a example of a budget line item be that we could use for the program?
Oh, I would not be the person to ask as far as how much money, right? I don't even know the site. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
I mean, like when you're saying budget, are you talking like when you're talking about like having a budget for the program, is this just like $20 to use like for copying papers and stuff? Or are some schools doing big productions or activities that we can buy supplies for the kids to get excited about the program? Well,
yeah, they make incentives. There might be an end of the year. You might want to plan an end of the year celebration. You may want to have a kickoff, going back to school, and maybe have a family art night where you can promote the reflections program and, get the parents involved too, and let them participate and kind of see how much fun, creating art with their kids is.
Okay.
There are a lot of different ways. And so it really depends on, what grade level are your kids?
It's K through 5.
Okay.
Yeah. And this year I actually have been the chair of art club at the school, which hasn't been going on for the last couple of years because of COVID. And this is the first time I've ever done this. And so we're actually having a big art gallery in less than 3 weeks. And we're including, it's really for the art club students to showcase all of their artwork, but we're including the reflections because we really want to have a table showcase their projects that they submitted, and try to, market it a little bit more at this end of the year art gallery. So we kind of want to combine both of them. But I love your idea about a family art night. I think that's awesome. That's a great idea.
Just maybe in some people in the community who can come in and just show different art forms, and, or even how to set up your phone on a tripod to, film yourself for, film production or dance or, anything. But, if these resources, like the media resources for any posters or anything you want to do, those should be available at pta.org/reflections now. Now, the guidelines won't be there. Those will come through Illinois. But if you need like some marketing materials, and they should be there. And if you can't find them, you let me know, because we want to make sure you put this out there when you have your event in 3 weeks. It won't be up on our website yet, but we'll, reflections@illinoispta.org. We're happy to help. We want you to have a successful year and get the kids fired up and the parents too.
Okay. All right. That's great. Thank you.
Are you able to hear me, Ruth?
Yes, Jim.
Oh, good. I'm having some computer issues, so I'm on a laptop now. Shelley, I
Oh,
could speak
Jim,
to the money aspect.
Yes.
I know
Cool.
I'm your state treasurer if you didn't know it. I know PTAs that have $0 in it this for reflections because anything they need gets funded by the art teacher or whoever's hosting it, or they get donations from a local art store. There are also PTAs on the other end of that spectrum that have $500 in the budget because they not only buy art supplies for like your art club, they also supply, maybe they have some money in there to buy ribbons or special certificates for all of the participants. And at the end of the year, maybe they host a get together where they have refreshments or even pizzas for all the kids. So it runs the gamut as far as what you and your school can come together and figure out what to do.
Okay.
And at our elementary school way back when, we used to have like a literacy night where all the kids wrote something. They wrote their own story and maybe drew pictures to go along with it. I don't know if your school district does that up there, but we always did sort of promoted reflections at that night also.
Okay. Good to know.
Yeah, and that was a
Thank you.
great idea, Jim, about getting donations as well. Get out into the community and, advertise what you're doing and how important that is, for your community. And I'm sure they'll be happy to help you out with refreshments or, whatever you need, supplies.
I would suggest, Shelley, that you go to the national website and get this theme for next year so you can hand that out so the kids can be thinking about it this summer. Here's this year's, now here's the theme for next year.
Right.
Just in case something comes up this summer that, I could use that for reflections. So you might want to start
Yeah.
promoting it now.
Yeah,
Okay.
the media resources are there, just the guidelines and leadership handbook and everything are not available yet. We're just going to be tweaking that and make that available in July.
Okay. Great. Thank you for the information,
And
everyone.
Ruth, if you'd like me to, I actually have all of those pages open that I could share and give people a visual for.
Yeah, if you want to, I'm gonna, Dan just raised his hand, so we're gonna,
After we're done, I can take
yeah,
people on a little tour.
if you could
That'd be
open it,
great.
I didn't have that page ready. I had Illinois PTA, but it's this year's resources. Yes, Dan?
I see quite a few DuPage County people here from DuPage East. Just know that Michelle is leaving this year, so I'm hoping to tap a few of you, if not one of you at least, to take over her spot. So let me know. Thank you. Sorry to shamelessly use that plug.
Michelle, Shelley, the other thing that we did at our local unit is we had artists come in and they demonstrated and then the kids got to try it. So we called it an Artist in Action Day. And just the community artists volunteered their time. And we put in our budget the supplies for that.
Okay.
And then we treated the artists to a lunch that day. So that was part of our budget as well.
Okay. And you called that an Artist Action Day?
Artist in Action.
Artist in Action. I
And
like that.
Shelley, when you get all this done and we would love for you to write something up and with pictures, and we would love to get it blasted out from Illinois PTA about, cultural arts that's happening in Illinois. That would
Okay.
be great.
I
We'd
will
love to
do that. Yeah, for sure.
And if Shelley, if you are looking for some family projects for your art night, if you go on to the Illinois PTA under Spotlight, there's 3 videos that you could use that we had last year.
Okay.
One's on making stables, one's on a picture of yourself answering different questions. there would be 3 ideas right there that you wouldn't have to
I'm
go out and
sorry.
reinvent.
I'm
Okay.
sorry, I'm still sharing. That was not.
All right, that's great. Thank you, everyone.
disgusting.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Everybody's ready for reflections?
Okay, so Jim, do you want to show
I
us?
do have a question, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. Feel free to unmute yourself.
On average, how many submissions or entries have you received in the past for those 6 categories? Do you know?
At the state level?
For the state level, yes.
Hundreds. We did cut our numbers down last year because we're only receiving from the regions now. We have eliminated most of our PTA districts, so they're coming through our 10 regions. So we had 288 were submitted this year from all over the state. But we could accept more. I mean, there are some categories that, don't necessarily get the same amount of attention. Visual arts, literature, we get the most entries. Dance is the least. Dance and music. But music composition can be anything. We have some drummers. These kids are just out there in the garage drumming, and I think they're in DuPage East, Dan. Maybe Charlie and Zach Smith. Are they? I don't recall. I think are they from Jackson PTA? One of the Jackson PTAs. Anyway, there's just so many different ways you can make sound, and dance is just movement, and so these kids can really, express themselves and get out there and participate. I know all these rules can be daunting. I just, it's my job to let you know these are nationals rules. Ruth's rules are, I'd love to watch it all. The kids are just so great, and I get goosebumps every time. They're just so amazing. And I see that one walking behind you, Shelley.
Okay, so it is
Yeah.
8:02. Anybody else have any other questions?
No, I just have a question. When you ask how many entries are submitted, do you know how many are allowed from your PTA to go on to the next level? Are you a part of a council?
We've never done this program before, or as far as I know. So that's why I'm trying to get information for them for next year. I'm moving on to the middle school level, but I was trying to get information for them for next year because this is something that I wish I had looked into in the past or received more information on it in the past to have the students, because I see videos they send each other all the time, and they have so much artistic ability. I don't know how they do it, but.
So where is it? Where is that PTA located?
We're in Lombard, Villa Park, Lombard. We're
Okay, so
District 45.
isn't that you, Dan? That's you,
Yes,
Dan,
it is.
right? Yeah. So do you know, are you working with Michelle? How many entries do you accept per, or they go to the council level? Are you part of a council? Is that PTA part of a council in Lombard?
Yes, we are.
Okay, so then it would be dependent on how many entries the council would receive. And I'm sure that, Dan, you're going to be working with your councils to help set deadlines so that they can get that information out to the locals, so they can start planning. And does your middle school have a PTA?
Yes, they do. It's we're Jackson and Jefferson Middle School in Villa Park.
Okay. I went to Jefferson Villa Park. That was a long time ago. Yeah. Right. Wonderful. So we could, get things going at that level as well. And maybe if they already established, then you can grab some of their ideas and take them back to the elementary.
I did. I messaged the president, and they're looking for someone to run that committee. So maybe I'll move on to that then for them.
Yeah. And find someone to take over at the elementary school. Are there any other questions or suggestions or?
Cheryl's got a question out there.
Yes.
I
Okay,
have a question. I'm not sure what kind of art form it is, but I know it's been really popular on America's Got Talent where the person speaks. So I didn't know if that was in a category, and it's just ironic that it says hear your voice. And so I didn't know if that's considered an art
Oh.
form, if somebody were to recite, or I'm not sure what it was called, but the guy that won last year, I know a lot of the kids are kind of doing their own like YouTubes of some of that. And so I just didn't know if that fits into one of the categories.
Oh, I mean, expressing a theme, if they are filming it, it could be a performance, but you know, they have to be their own editing and filming of it. Are they reciting their own
Yes.
words?
Yeah.
They
So would
wrote,
that be
they wrote the
considered?
piece. They're not reciting someone else's.
No, it's
Uh,
their,
If it's literature, it would have to be in written form. Those are nationals rules, but it's really something to look into. The spoken word and poetry slams are very popular with the kids. And it's certainly something we should consider suggesting to National PTA as another way for these kids to express themselves who may not feel comfortable in writing these words, but are able to, express it through their voice and show their voice. Yeah,
Could
that
it
was great.
be a film entry, Ruth?
Yeah, and said it could be a film entry. They would have to film it. So it could be their performance, but as well as on film. Yeah, or if they just write the words down, then it would be a literature entry.
yeah, I think part of the artistic performance is performing it. So
Right,
that's
right.
why I wasn't sure which category they would
Yeah.
have to fit that in.
And they could have little snippets of that and they could cut them in if they do editing of their film and put those things together and have I mean of different recitations, of their own. See, you can't do multiple in literature, but you can, in a film entry, you could certainly do cuts of different recitations. I don't know how old are these kids?
I'm talking about middle schools.
Yeah, middle school, they can do amazing things
Mhm,
with film editing,
mhm.
That's
Yeah,
great. That's a great idea.
I think the artistic part is not really the filming. So yeah, that I'll have to read the instructions and make sure that I pass that on real clear. Because if they're not,
Well-
if they're not in the filming, you know what I'm saying? I'm not sure if that would fit the category then for what I'm thinking of.
Well, they can film themselves expressing the theme. They can. It's just that they can't have somebody else handling the camera.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's all. They can set it up, and to film themselves expressing that theme. But I was like saying, if they have multiple takes of different, recitations, they could, certainly put those in and cut those in and make an interesting video out of as well. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have a TikTok category yet, so we
No, but
we gotta figure out where it fits.
yeah, and you're right. The spoken word and poetry slams are really
Yeah.
a great expression of the arts, and
Especially at the middle school age right now.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Absolutely.
And you're right, the TikToks, that may be something they should consider too, because we need to update a lot of this stuff.
TikTok has already been a sponsor for some things at a national level. So maybe that's coming. Who knows?
Reflections at pta.org. They're open for suggestions. Of course, this week is a little busy because they're getting ready to announce the national winners, but I'm certain that they would welcome any suggestions that you might have. But as far as Illinois, reflections at illinoispta.org. Feel free to reach out anytime with any of your questions or comments or, suggestions. And we look forward to working with you this upcoming year through the summer. Yes, Shelley.
I'm sorry. I hope I'm not asking too many questions.
Oh,
Right now, if I go to the reflections area on pta.org, does that require a password that I need?
Are you on the state or the national site?
I'm not at, well, right now I'm not in either. I'm giving you guys my full attention, but
You're talking about pta.org/reflections at the national level. Is that correct?
Hey, you know
Well,
what,
we're-
Ruth?
Yes.
If you can go up to, do you have seen my name in the upper right?
Yes.
Because I got knocked off, I'm no longer a host, but I can share
Oh,
my
oh.
screen. If you go up to
Yeah,
the little
I'm gonna
blue
get you.
square,
Yep,
make me a host.
I am. I'm doing that right now.
Okay. And then I can share and I can show people kind of a visual of what we're looking at here.
okay, I'd love that. And then also my other question is there a list of, and I wish I asked her, I tried to message, I think her name was Rachel from Palatine that was just on. I think she left the meeting already. I
Yes.
tried to private message her, like my phone number, but it wasn't allowing me to do that. Is there a list of like reflection chair people that you could share with me or all of us? Like, I would love to contact other reflection chair persons, people at other schools and just like pick their brain. Like, what are you guys doing this year? What do you do every year? Or what really works for you? Or
Yeah.
so we could, share ideas.
Well, and we can't really give that information out with, my connection's unstable. Can you hear me? We can't give that out without their permission, throughout the information we collect, but we could certainly set up another event where it's let's talk. People could come together and we can just talk about the arts and reflections, ideas and suggestions and
Hey, Shelley.
answer questions. We could
You're
do this on a
from-
monthly basis if Jim will let us.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. You're from Arlington Heights. If you get a hold of the people at your council, they could set up a hub on Member Hub where all of the reflections chairs could share ideas. But I think your best place to go is either through your Arlington Heights Council president or get a hold of Jeanette Harris at the region level. And I know they have a list of people that sort of share those kind of duties.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just be careful because they're always looking for somebody to help at the region level too.
It says yes. If you lift my hair up, it says yes on my forehead.
That's perfect. Well, everybody, I can't see everybody's faces, but I know everyone was kind of looking for, if you go to National PTA, underneath programs here, if you go to reflections, it's going to bring you to this tab. And this will have all of the information eventually, but here's the register button that we talked about at the beginning. Okay. And all of those promotional posters and stuff, you're going to find somewhere on this page. They're always adding more. So go to this page and you'll find possibly every tool that you would need reflections wise here. You won't find all of the stuff just yet, but they're going to be publishing that as the next, reflections year gets started.
Well, what
on
they
the state level.
At the state, right? They'll kick you back to Illinois is what they will do. Yeah.
Okay. So at the state level, if you may go find a promotional poster on national, but for the details, when you go to the state, the state page just looks, sorry, that's my computer software blocking me. When you go to the state page, if you go illinoispta.org or search ILPTA, it'll finally bring you directly to Illinois PTA. If you go to programs here and click on reflections, hopefully it won't error out on us. It just takes a second.
Well, right now it's going to have last year's resources and then the 2020, this current year's results.
Under the program tab, it's just going to have sort of the current information right now, sort of what's going on, that reflections is coming up, the spotlight is coming up this weekend. That's your current information that everybody can get to. This password protected part here, that's the leadership resources website, that is going to have, you have the password now. I'm assuming if you're on this call that you're a unit in good standing. The password right now is capital A, LL, the number 4, capital K, IDZ. So it's all 4 kids with with 4 being the number 4 and the A and the K capital. And that will get you into a site that's going to give you hundreds of documents. And one of those subsections is reflections here. That's going to give you all of these different documents that'll cover all of those questions that you might have. It's all of the categories, everything in Spanish. Everything that we have on here now is for 21-22. At some point over the summer, it's the new information is going to be rolled out and put on here. I can tell you this, the password for this leadership resources section is not going to change until at the earliest August 1st. So you'll have access to this information, but it's not going to be the 2022, 2023 information until that gets rolled out, you know, to Ruth and she works with the office and we get it all put up here.
As fast as we can.
Yeah, and that shows you where to go, but everything you can find out on Illinois PTA. And let's see if it'll actually take me back to the main page right now, because I always like to share this. If you're not already getting information from that weekend update that we mentioned, go on Illinois PTA. If you haven't been there in a while, it's going to pop up a box and say, hey, do you want to sign up for our newsletter? That's the weekend update. Every Friday, you get the latest and greatest information, and it's actually laid out pretty nicely, where it's a paragraph on what's going on, and then there's a link to click to get more information if you want it. If you don't have that box pop up, scroll to the bottom of the page. It does work through Constant Contact. So you have to put your email address in here, and you have to click the little silly box that says, yes, I really do want you to send me emails. That will get you that Friday weekend update newsletter every week. And if you want more in-depth articles up here, if you go to the blog, on the same thing on the right-hand side, every Tuesday, there's an in-depth blog article that dives into one thing. And that may have to do with the newest laws that are being passed, or that might have to do with certain information about something the Illinois school board is doing, all sorts of topics. What else did we want to show them? Ruth or Peg, was there something else?
In the resources, do they have the slide deck in national resources? Because that, to me, to get started, to be able to just promote your program, you know, and maybe do a little presentation for your administration, so they see, I mean, if you haven't done reflections before,
Yeah.
what an amazing program it is, and what's
Ruth, that's what I'm
Yeah,
planning to do this summer with our schools. And so I was going to ask you that about your slides. Is there a way that I can get those slides that you presented so I can present it to the schools, or is that somewhere on the website?
No, I can, you know, and I can give you one you can tailor to your, you know, school or you know, your area. But I can work with you on that if you want to just reach out to me at reflections@illinoispta.org.
I'm sorry, one more time.
Reflections
Mm-hmm.
at Illinois PTA, you have to spell out Illinois.org.
And that's goes directly to you?
That'll go to me or R. Johnston at illinoispta.org. I'll get both, and we'll work with you. I'll get you that slide deck. It's not something I'm going to be making any changes to, the one that came from national, and then you can tailor it to whatever you need to present it.
I just want to present it to our school. I'm the district, I'm the council, so I just want to get the information passed on to the schools, to the units.
The best shot is get them to go to that and register here, because that sort of gets them on the list of national shooting out information. And then there are some videos. I don't know if you saw where I went, but on the first page, I scrolled down and it said something about get started. And at the bottom of this page, there are a couple of videos here, I think, that you could pull down and show them. So play a little bit around on the reflections page of National PTA, and you'll find those promotional materials that you'll be able to send out or email to all of your unit presidents, you know, the poster for next year. That should be here already to publicize that for over the summer. And then the other thing, if you haven't signed up for a national PTA account, it's basically your name and your email address. They'll give you all sorts of tools inside your local leadership toolkit too, but the reflection specific stuff, you'll get directly to it through programs.
Thank you. I think our situation is we've had the reflections program going, but a lot of times the volunteers move on and all of the details on how to run the program is not really passed on. So I want to offer this to the school so that they might even have a reflections person, but that person is like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. So to be able to offer a little bit of that training and guidance, just like exactly what you're showing, like how to go to the website, how to get them registered, their dues, how that's related. A lot of that information doesn't get passed on. So that's my plan, is to try to make sure they get all that information.
Okay.
Cheryl, this is being recorded, so it will be posted if you want to show them any of this recording. And Jim, by the way, are you going to turn the recording off pretty soon?
I was just going to do that right now.